med school, Washington University of Medicine. Currently, I'm doing my first year of residency.
I'm Felicia Patel. I am from South Carolina. I actually went here for undergrad, so I have lots of advice. I went to UConn at Blacksburg, Virginia for med school. And I'm first year resident.
My name is Kelly Savia. I'm from Arlington, Virginia, and I went to VCOM in Blacksburg, Virginia for med school, but before that I went to James Madison University and BC for my master's. And I'm a second year resident.
Hi everyone, my name is Matthew Johnson. I am originally from small town Greenville, Tennessee. Went to the University of Tennessee, don't hold it against me, for undergrad. And I went to VCOM as long as these two here for medical school in Blacksburg, Virginia. I am a first year intern, fresh meat in family medicine at Palmetto, so good to be here.
Well, I'm Dr. Witherspoon, and I say some time ago. I finished medical school in 1992. But I went to Penn State at that time and did my residency here at family medicine, and after 3 years of training, went on to work for 3 years at a federally qualified health professional shortage area. You'll hear a little bit about that later. And had opportunity to come back to the residency. So I've been at the family medicine residency program, attending there for the past 16 years.
So pretty much going to give you an overview of the process before you go to med school, the process time when you're going in med school, and then after the fact. And we have a pretty diverse panel here, focused on the fact that not only we come from different schools, but also different pathways to get to where we are today. So hopefully it's important to you all, and definitely any questions at the end of the presentation, we will happy to serve you all. So let's jump into it. So right now, you guys are in stage one. Look at life. College, undergrad, it's amazing, it's an awesome time. But you kind of might have the question about what do I need to do and actually prepare to advance to med school. So there's a few questions we kind of brought up was what classes do I take, which my major be, which I'll be involved in, and kind of like getting that process rolling. So with this one, I think Felicia's going to talk about since she went to school here.
So, believe it or not, I was not in your shoes as far as sitting here because I didn't know I wanted to be a doctor until my junior year, and I still did it. So you're a junior and you're just now deciding if that's great. So my major when I first came in was biology. I knew I wanted to go into healthcare. I didn't know what, so I picked biology. Did it for a semester and realized I hated it. So I actually switched to exercise science, and I don't know how many of you are exercise scientists.
There should be a little bit.
Should be fun,
Yeah. So I did the scientific foundations track. If you do that track, all the classes you need for medical school are going to be covered. And with that, I did that. Plus, I got a minor in psychology and a minor in business. And why did I do that? Well, you want to look well-rounded. So if you do biology and you just do all science classes, that's all you know. Guess what? Medicine is a business. And we, as interns, are learning the hard way right now, how to bill and code, and it is horrible. So you need to have some kind of business sense. So if you don't have a minor, business is probably a pretty good one, at least to have like a good background. So when you see a balance sheet, you're not wondering what's this. So that's kind of what I did for classes. Within those classes, you need to get to know your professors, because one day you're going to need recommendation letters. I ended up doing research with one of my professors because it was organic chemistry, I think the first one. And I was 1 point on a test away from getting an A. And of course, like every other pre-med student at that time, I was like, I need that A, what am I thinking? So I went and talked to him, and believe it or not, they're very approachable, all the professors I've ever had at least. And I went and talked to him, and he pulled out all my tests, and he's like, I want you to fight for your point. I had to go through every single one of my tests to get a point back. And I got it, and then before I left the room, he said I could have my A if I did research with him, because he saw how persistent I was. And that worked out in my favor, because that got me, like the last part, beefing up my resume. I just did a lot of like lab rat stuff, but that gets you in there, gets you to see how research is done. You don't have to want to do research to just do it to get an idea of what it is. I did it, now I know I don't like it. And as exercise science, you have to do, it's like a independent study. You can do the easy route, and I can't remember what you can do for the easy route, but I chose to do another research study. And it's first semester, and it's kind of an easy way to get your research in too. So I had 2 different kind of avenues of getting research on my resume. Again, don't like it, we'll never do it. What should I be involved in? I was involved in ICE, I'm sure all the brown people here know what it is. I was actually pretty heavily involved in it. Indian Cultural Exchange.
Thank you.
I was on their board. I did a lot of events. The volleyball tournament, I started that. You're welcome. So you just have to get involved. You know, you're not just medicine, and that's what you have to remember. Even as interns, you know, we get days where we realize that we don't know anything about anything except medicine, and it gets depressing. So don't do that to yourself. Have interests outside of science. You're going to see that when you go on interviews, they're going to ask you what you like to do for your free time, and trust me, they don't want to hear that you like to do research. That's just not normal. And if it is, that's okay, just laugh. So I did that. I wasn't part of AED, I don't think, I can't quite remember. But I was also part of some other clubs, just interests. You know, they have intramural sports, that's good, keeps you healthy, you know, while you're studying, so you don't gain the freshman 15 for the freshmen out there. So just be sure that you do those things. And USC has a lot of outlets. I was an ambassador my freshman year, that was fun. We got to work at the Waverly Center, and that gets you into other doors, especially for student organizations and student government. So definitely do that if you have an opportunity. I'm sure most of you aren't freshmen anymore, so it might be too late. But student government is a great way too. It makes you a good leader. And if you notice now, we're leaders in our healthcare. As scary as it is, we're still adjusting to it. I go into a room and I talk to patients. I come out and I sometimes break a sweat, sometimes I don't. But you know, the fake it till you make it, that's true. I do it every day. So, I think that's all I have for that, unless you guys have questions.
Let's save them to the end, or you think?
Yeah, let's save all the questions, please.
All in. Okay, that's fine.
And so I'm just going to kind of piggyback on what she said. So granted, most individuals who go into medicine are going to be a science major, but you don't have to be a science major if you want to pursue the field of medicine. A lot of individuals I had in my classes actually were like English majors, some individuals were like language majors, and overall they just love the passion of medicine, and you just took the bio class to help you prepare for the MCAT. But overall, you don't need to just be a science major that you pursue for. So granted, all what you say is true. In pursuing outside activities, you want to be that well-rounded person. My mentor kind of told me, you want to be a football. I mostly rounded, but you have your strong points. So what those strong points are going to be for you to kind of differentiate from the overall crowd. If everyone's a science major, everyone's a research, well then what makes you kind of stand out? What makes you unique? Why do you take a job at school? How can you kind of help us out? So that's a little bit about that. And then when it comes to people on the resume, with people doing research, it can work as a double-edged sword. So when you do research,
They ask you about it.
don't do research for like, that one project at one time, just saying a research on anything. Because they're say, oh, well, what did you get from it? Did you get a publication out of it? Did you continue to pursue it? What happened? So when you just do something to make it look good, it ends up hurting you at the end of the day.
Yeah, you do have to know about it. They do ask you about it. So you don't just do it, but do it and understand what you're doing. Because usually on interviews, they'll ask you about the research, especially if you have a publication. I was just talking about it right now at work before I came here. One of the residents was talking about how she got her master's and then, you know, went to medical school, and during her interviews, they actually kind of threw her under the bus about her research. Like, why did you do this? Why didn't you do this? You know, why did you choose this topic? Why is the design this way? She didn't even pick the design. It was already picked for her, but she got a lot of questions, so definitely be careful with that.
And that would kind of lead us over into the admission process of them actually going through the application and transcripts, and you will critique everything you've done since probably you were born, and ask you all the questions behind it. So know everything you put into your application.
Next.
MCAT? Are you joining?
Yeah.
I just want to make sure.
I'm Kelly. I'm a PGY2. For anybody that doesn't know what that means, PGY is postgraduate year, and then 1, 2, or 3 or beyond. So I have survived intern year, and I'm here to talk a little bit about admissions and so forth. I like to consider myself having taken the scenic route, so as some people say. I didn't go straight into med school. I decided my junior year of college to go study abroad, and as a biology major back then, we didn't have a whole lot of opportunity to do that during the year, so I decided to do it instead of taking the MCAT that summer between junior and senior year, which happened to be the best decision of my life. for a couple of reasons. One, I was there when Italy won the World Cup in Florence, and I'll keep those pictures for another day. But two, it gave me an awesome experience, not only in life, but to talk about as well in my interviews process. Yeah. And so, when you do that, as some of you know who are going through this process, the matriculation is about a year or so after you start applying. So I decided to, and back then I was asking around. There weren't a whole lot of post-bac programs or programs for people that specifically wanted to go into medicine or dentistry. But I did find one at Medical College of Virginia, and I did a 1-year post-bac in physiology. And then I was all ready to be a scribe at a hospital the next year while I was interviewing, hopefully for medical school. And then I was in my neuroanatomy class, and he was talking about his research, and coincidentally, I had done some neuroanatomy research in undergrad, so I enjoyed the topic, and so I asked him after the class in April, mind you, do you have any spots open? He said, well, actually, I do. And I said, oh, well, let me quickly renew my lease and cancel that job, that scribe job at home. And so I stayed around an extra year and got my master's that second year, and then I ended up matriculating into medical school that following fall. So, all of that saying, you don't have to go directly into med school from undergrad. You can, and you'll be much younger at the end, I promise. But to be honest, as Felicia was saying, it's harder and harder to become unique as an applicant. I mean, look in the room. This is amazing. You guys have so many people here. My AED group was like 13. So it's pretty impressive. But truthfully, you really do have to somehow set yourself apart and get them to get in the door just for an interview. So studying for the MCAT. Sorry, that was a long-winded way of saying the MCAT is a test, but it's a means to an end, in my personal opinion. So it's important to take seriously. If you don't want to take it twice, like I did, be very conscientious in your studying and dedicate, a summer to do it. Work if you have to, but, just get her done. Should I have clinical experience? Most definitely, for 2 reasons. One, most applications require it, and 2, you really have to know what you're getting into. Medicine is changing on a daily basis, and it's an environment that I think a lot of us, especially in my personal experience, I didn't have anybody in medicine to really ask questions about in my family. So I relied on those clinical experiences to let me know what I was getting into, and just what kind of environment I would actually be working in, and what it actually meant to be in patient care. Because I think a lot of times it's sensationalized and it's on TV and all that sort of things, and it's not House or Grey's Anatomy or ER, which is my show. Right. So once you've written your naming statement and essay, which I will piggyback what Felicia said, put in that essay what you want to talk about in the interview. Don't say like, oh, I did something, if you don't have any intention on talking about it, because they will ask you. I have to say, the biggest things I got asked about were what I like to do in my spare time, so definitely have an answer for that. But I got asked about my trip to Italy. I've done some medical missions to Costa Rica, Nicaragua, and Panama in undergrad, and I love talking about those. In fact, I used a story from one of those experiences to highlight my essay, and it kind of carried me through the interview process, as well as in residency too, actually. What was I going to say? Okay. But long story short, make that essay yours and own it. The interview process, I mean, it's a little bit intimidating, no lie. I'm sure a couple of you have interviewed already, or at least starting to gear up to start interviewing. It's a very odd situation because you have to talk about yourself, and that's not easy for all of us. But start getting used to it, because you will be talking about yourself, and it's not that you're cocky or conceited. You really have to, like I said, set yourself apart. So be confident in the hard work you've done to get here, and own it, you know, and they'll see it right away. Traditional versus non-traditional route, I've kind of already touched on that. Traditional is kind of old hat for saying you went straight through undergrad into med school. A lot of my average age for my med class was 24, and I think it's even now up to 25. So with that meaning that people went different routes. And it just gives you more opportunity, more experiences to talk about in your interview, but also just practicing too.
Then just kind of going over a few things. I like to just myself. So studying for the MCAT. So there really isn't a straight up guideline to how to comp the MCAT. People use like exam crackers, Princeton reviews, Kaplan. There are many ways of going about actually studying for it, but the only thing that they all have in common is putting the time and effort into actually studying for it. So you can't just kind of cram like some people do, like, hey, I have an exam tomorrow, let me just cram it in. Because it's really just an overwhelming amount of information. So you have to take the actual time and effort, and literally probably a whole summer, sometimes a whole semester, to study simultaneously. You can do it in conjunction with the courses you take, versus taking things just, hey, I have a whole summer off, I'm just hardcore study. And you may not take it that first year around, like a sophomore or junior, you may take it that last year, or you might actually have to go take it twice. One thing you have to definitely keep in mind about it is, one, MCAT costs money. And this will be the first step in a lot of funds you'll be giving out to become where we are right now. I'm actually giving out funds still, which I'm wonderful, but that's a different thing. So just overall, definitely put the work into it. Clinical experience, you talked about interview process. So about knowing yourself, I think is one of the main things that they actually harp on in the interview process, because I've had individuals who are like, hey, how do I need to go and approach the interview thing right here? I don't know what to talk about. And it is hard to talk about yourself, especially if this is used for them to get to know you. A lot of times they go through the application process, they give you the interview, which means you look good on paper. Now they need to see who you are. So look at that, see, do you actually know yourself? Are you at that maturity level to be and actually go through med school? Some people will take you in because they think you need experience for a day before you actually get the step forward to actually start this path. So in my med school, the age range was from 19 to 31 as my first year class. So just think about it. So one started at 19, he was a special kid. And someone started 31, they experienced all of life, had to offer, and they said, I'm going to go be a doctor now. So through that whole entire gamut, people have so many different clinical experience. Not only that, they also have different life journeys. And this is one of the major melting pots of kind of medical schools looking at these days to see how can we actually have a diverse group, because they're trying to take a reflection of their class to be positioned to serve as a reflection of the population. Because at the end of the day, I want to be served by someone who actually knows me and kind of gets me. So therefore, if you're just, I study, or research, I do that 10% of the time. The rest, I like to enjoy life. So if you don't like to enjoy it, I don't want you to be my doctor. That's just me. And then traditional versus non-traditional. So moving on, I think that's the first one too. The admission process still. So this is a little extra I took actually from New England Journal of Medicine. It was published by Dr. Witzberg, who was the board of, he was our admissions board at Boston University. Woo! Man, I messed that up. But this is a little quote we took from it. Admission decisions are based on the holistic evaluation of the entire applicant. Admissions file record. Oh, sorry. So pretty much that statement. So the holistic approach. So not just what you look on paper, not just academic, but overall, how are you as a well-rounded individual? And these are just some of the things taken from his survey study he did for kind of saying what are desirable candidates. So you can just kind of take a quick harp on this. But it involves many things that you see just in somebody you want to see as a normal person. Intellectual ability, cultural sensitivity, empathy, room for growth, person's character, interpersonal skills. So pretty much, I like talking to this person. I get along with them. Probably the next 4 years we could be good friends, learn from each other. Yeah, I want to be in my school. But if you're kind of one of those standoff, no skills, quiet, socially awkward, it might be a little bit more difficult.
But he's not exaggerating. I mean, I spent some time in the admissions committee at the School of Medicine here, and intellectual ability, as you see, is just one bullet on there, and there's so many other bullets that are important. We used to say sometimes, do they pass the Gurney test? Do I want to lay down, be ill, and look up and see this applicant in the future as a physician? And sometimes we say yes, and sometimes we say he has everything or she has everything, but I would not want to look up and see that person. So it really does make sense. Not aesthetically, but the whole thing. Let me clear that up. Okay, Dr. Madrini.
Yeah, choosing which school is right for me. So this is kind of something to talk about when you're positioning your title from MD versus DO. So DO people went to osteopathic school, and the MD is the traditional kind of allopathic school program. And honestly, when I was applying to med school, I didn't have that much knowledge about osteopathic medicine. So maybe my colleagues can talk about that and kind of what brought them towards that. But with my journey to choosing med school, I went through a pathway program. So at the end of the day, I was kind of one of those non-traditional characters. So my school had, like, you apply as a sophomore, you get accepted, you spend your senior year there, and then you're pretty much straight shot all the way through med school. When looking to see if I did want to go to BU, and I did want to just go to other med schools where I applied out, I pretty much was looking around to see what was I comfortable with. So where did I want to go? Where did I want to be in relations to my family? Is distance going to be an issue? Cost of living? What is the patient population at that time? Like, is it going to be a diverse crowd like I'm used to? Is it going to be like just white and black? Is it going to be predominantly white? Like, all these things are really playing involved in all kind of like saying what I want to do at the end of the day. And sometimes you can just kind of say, well, who would take me? At the very far end. I don't think that happened to anybody here, but in this case, hey, just somebody take me, please. So before going further, anyone talk about how they went about choosing osteopathic schools?
I guess I can touch on it a little bit since I am a DO. I know, how many of you guys have, well, 3 of us are. How many of you guys have heard of osteopathic medicine at all? Okay, so some of you, a lot of you, most of you. So I won't get into detail all about that, but one of the reasons why I chose osteopathic medicine, and I was, when I was in your shoes, debating on, am I going to apply to MD schools, am I going to apply to osteopathic schools, and I considered applying to both. I ended up only applying to DO schools, and the reason for that was I really fell in love with kind of the philosophy of osteopathic medicine and what they do, and I just thought it would be neat and different. So I ended up only applying to osteopathic schools and really enjoying my time there. With that being said, at our level, there's really no difference. I mean, we work with MDs, we work with DOs in the same residency program, and we do the same things, and we're, take the same board exams and everything else. So I know there's a lot of skepticism out there. I'm not going to lie about that. I heard it when I was in your shoes and everything about osteopathic medicine. But I'm a firm believer in its in that pathway if that's for you. For those of you that the manipulation aspect of osteopathic medicine, doing the back cracking, the bone cracking, all that kind of stuff, it's actually fun, and it's also another, like we always put it, another tool in your bag when you're actually out there practicing medicine. So you can use that. You can bill for it. Not that that's important, but it's another thing. Well, in the future. Okay, in the future it will be, but it's another thing that you can offer your patients, and believe it or not, patients love it when you put your hands on them and touch them, and it makes them feel better. It makes them feel good. So that's part of the reason why I did that. But you guys can piggyback off that.
I second that. Yep.
I agree. Also, we have a lot of all of our allopathic residents who will ask us for advice. I'm with one of the emergency medicine residents this month, and we were talking about one of the manipulations that we do, mesenteric release, and he called it something else. I was like, that's not what it's called. And then I asked him if he was a DO, and he said no, he just keeps asking other DOs for help. So there's manipulations that are very helpful.